Hello, people of the world. Hey, hi, salut. Hello, mate. How we doing? Today I'm going to go through how I set up my bullet journal for 2018. Vlogging with wigs. I've got hair everywhere. Ugh. Mascara and wigs is a nightmare, as is wigs and soup. If you're going to wear a wig on a date, don't have soup. Just, you know, learn from my mistakes. Anyway, bullet journal. So this was my bullet journal from 2017, and during my Vidmas I did a video all about this book. I went through it page by page, so have a look at that. This was the first bullet journal I ever did, so I learnt a lot last year. But one thing I learnt was that this was too big. So I found that I couldn't really take this around with me last year. Its home was on my desk. Why am I so out of breath? I'm hearing myself. Breathe at the end of your sentences, Rebecca. So in November, I said to myself that I would use smaller journals in 2018, and I'd sort of do half and half, use one for 6 months, then the next one for the next 6 months. Although I love the bullet journals with the dots, they are quite expensive for what they are, so I was quite happy to go back to regular notebooks to do my bullet journaling. But then my Christmas Secret Santa got me 2 of these, miniature versions of this with the dots. So I gave up on the regular notebooks and I set out to do it in these. So in terms of planning, I set up these 2 books with the same planning regime. I got a separate notebook and I wrote down all the things that I wanted in the first 20 pages. Things like a calendar, a future log, a wish list, just the different titles, the pages, the subjects. Then when I knew roughly what I wanted, I set out those pages in pencil in the new book. Now, oh gosh, right, it is on aeroplane. It's because it's rebeccabiz. That was a weird face. Always remember to put your phone on aeroplane when you're recording, not just because it interrupts, but it can interfere with your audio recording. You get that da-da-da-da-da-da in editing. This is awesome! Does that mean that this counts as 4 eggs, or is it still 3? I'm gonna ring my mum.
And then flat over.
Whatever you say. Your footage is useless. Anyway, going back to this. I must admit that once I got past the subject pages, I found it hard to find a realistic way of depicting my week in the book, because it's so tiny. I went through a few different variations of the week, and this is roughly what I've ended up with. Of course, this may change later in the year depending on how busy things get, but that's how I've started. And on the basis of my weeks looking like this, I'm able to get the entire 2018 in this book, and a couple of months of 2019 as well. I reckon there's a good 40 pages or so at the end of the book that are spare. So on that basis, I'm assuming that I'm going to be using this for the entire year. I must admit that once I discovered that, I did go back and add in a couple of extra pages before the weekly calendar of my book, just in case. Always leave extra pages at the start of your book because you never know what you might add later in the year. It's better to have extra pages than have not enough pages. One thing I have done differently throughout the book this year is I have stayed away from fancy writing. Last year, my calendar looked like this, and although my writing alternated across the year, I did try to do that fancy writing a lot. I love that type of writing. I think it's pretty, but it's not realistic for me. Sometimes I find it hard to read. So this year, I've tried to go back to simple writing. Nothing's joined up. It's so basic. There are a few variations of that type of writing, of course. But overall, there's barely any... Is it cursive? I don't know. This is my January header. And I tried something different for February as well. Now let's talk about the pens I'm using in my bullet journal. For writing, I have used the triangular Inkjoy from Papermate. That's the blue pen. For colouring and the borders, I've used the Staedtler Triplus colour. That's also what I've used to colour in sections like this. And then for all the black stuff, I've used the pens from Faber-Castell. I like the idea of having coloured borders like this, and I primarily write in blue pen. I hate black pen. Fine liner pen, that's okay, it depends. But one thing I did last year that I hated was I started the book writing everything in black. So that's okay, but in terms of my actual weeks, I preferred everything in blue. Like this, everything's in black. I hate it. So, In the same way that I said leave some spare pages at the start of your book before the weekly calendar, leave extra space in your index. I think there's 3 or so pages of index in this book. 1, 2. There's 3 pages and a blank page, no dots. Last year my index sort of got messy and I left bits out, whereas this year I have done my subject pages on page 1 and then I'm doing the months of the year on the second page. So far I haven't written a key in my book. I am going to keep it simple. I'm going to have a line, a dash for a task, a circle for an event and a dot for a note. Oh, and an arrow if I have to forward something on to another day or another month. That's it. I do find that keys can be quite complicated sometimes. It's best to keep it simple. And that sort of carries on from last year as well. I've just swapped the dot and the takeaway sign the other way around. It makes sense to carry that over. In terms of subject pages though, what have I done? Well, I have done a calendar, I've done a future log. I know I keep going on about size in this, but it's something I've had to really account for in this book compared to last year. So last year I felt like I wasted so much paper on my future log, just so much space. And I feel this layout is better, it conserves space. For me, I want to continue using this for birthdays, for big events that I can't put in my weekly calendar yet, things that are months away. Things like Sundance, I want to apply to Sundance this year, and the applications don't open till March, so writing it in there will remind me. So in total, I did 3 months per page and used 4 pages. Not bad. Going back to my yearly calendar, setting up the calendar is always one of the most stressful parts of bullet journaling for me. You're literally just copying a calendar from the internet into your book, all the numbers, the dates, the weeks. But it is so easy to make a mistake. So as you can see, this is me drawing out my calendar. It did take a long time. It is one of those things where I think to myself, it might be easier just to print it off the internet. But no, I wanted to do it myself. So this is the finished calendar in all its glory. So yes, in this book, roughly everything is smaller, or it's displayed on 2 pages as opposed to 1, like this. In this book, the calendar is on 2 pages, whereas in my previous book, the calendar was on 1. Yeah. Then we get on to resolutions. So this is a page about my resolutions for 2018. It's self-explanatory, to be honest. Then we have my period log. Again, self-explanatory. Now this is my favourite section that I have done this year. It's the books I want to read in 2018. I have a section for religious books, but everything else is messy. I've seen a few people do different variations of this, and I wanted to have a go for myself. Last year I just did lists, which got quite boring. I also found it harder to look at this and differentiate the different lines. I am somebody that does struggle with big blocks of text. I don't know why I did that. So this year I sought to make a change. I am a more visual person, so this is better. I did worry in terms of colour what to do though. I was worried that my pens would penetrate the paper, it would ruin the other side, and it didn't. As I've said this year already, I would like to read 25 books, at least, in 2018. So I did 3 pages, 3 different bookshelves of books. And I was quite surprised when I started colouring them in that the black pen showed through. It took a few days, I think, for the ink to change. At first, you couldn't really read the black text. Not that it matters. Once you've read the book, get rid of it. Then we move on to video ideas, and again, I have done a list. I don't mind that there, though. I didn't want to make it too complicated for myself, and I've left 2 more pages just in case I overflow, which knowing me, I will. Then I have a wish/dream list, but when I was doing my list, I kept it as simple as possible. What are the big things that I would like? Now that I am moving, I am worried. The bills are going to go up. Amazingly, where I'm moving to, they already have some stuff there that they are leaving behind for me, which is very kind of them, including an ironing board, so I don't have to worry about that. Not that I do much ironing. Ugh. To be honest though, I've had so many people ask me about the move next month. I do have a Patreon, I do have a PayPal, I also have Amazon wish lists. So if you would like to support my videos or support with the house move, everything's downstairs below. I feel weird saying that, but so many people have asked me if I have anywhere they can go to, so yeah, down there. The next thing is something I started yesterday. It's things I've watched. I want to keep a record of all the things I'm watching, whether it be performances, films, television shows, stuff on Netflix. I want to write it down. I am trying to watch different stuff. I find myself gravitating towards The Office and Mr. Selfridge far too much. So in creating a list, mentally I will be thinking about the fact that I need to watch more stuff to grow the list. I do have a few more ideas for pages to add, but that's all I've done so far. I would like to have some more Bible stuff in the front of my bullet journal, things I want to read or favourite verses, things like that. Not quite ready to do that just yet. I've left a grand total of 10 pages to fill before my weekly calendar starts. And then everything starts on January, so this has already been and gone. Videos to do, stuff I've got to do for the move. Despite how cluttered it looks, this is quite minimal for me. I'm only writing things in this book that need to go in this book. It's another reason why I want to do more pages at the start, to document things that I don't necessarily need to put in this part of my book. So for example, I had the flu, so I didn't get that much done apart from packing and sorting. So I wrote down the things that I watched. I watched Jamestown and The Masters of Florence, the Medici. But to be honest, that's not really that important. It's not work, it's nothing I need to worry about. So in theory, I should put it in there. Another reason why I set that up. Now that I've set it up, I would prefer to use this book for the entire year, if I can manage it. During the course of the year, if things change, I may space out my weeks across 2 pages, as opposed to 1 week per page, like that. I may run out of room. Judging by what I'm like, I reckon I could get to October, November in this before I have to stick in extra pages. We'll see. Future Rebecca, see if you can get this all in one book. So that is my bullet journal, already set up and in use for 2018. And so far, I am loving this. I feel more connected to it because I can carry it around everywhere with me. I can slip it inside a coat pocket if I wanted to, but it fits in my bag. No trouble. Look. It can even fit in the front of my bag like that. It seems silly to get so excited by something like that. I think this video is more of a how I've done my bullet journal as opposed to tips for bullet journaling. I could do that another time. But perhaps what I have shown you so far has been helpful on some level. Something else I am doing differently this year is, for the first time in many, many years, I have started a diary. Eventually I will do a video on privacy and some of the thoughts I have in my brain right now, but I've needed to start this. Something for me, something that's private, something that isn't online. At least in the near future. Maybe in 5 years' time I will show this to some extent, but for now, private. Last year I had too many notebooks. I had my bullet journal, I had a work journal, I had a variety of black notebooks for different things. So this year I'm trying to simplify that. Diary, work journal, and books for Christianity. In terms of my faith in Christianity, this is my journal. Again, it's private, so I guess I have 3 books to maintain this year. Ugh, got hair everywhere. Right, I'm now gonna go. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone. And now we've reached the end card. Bubum tish. Oh yeah. And this is my natural hair, by the way. It is much darker. And messy. And this is actually my mum's t-shirt as well, so I do feel like my mum today without my wig on. Right, I'm gonna go. Bye!